yogis. Good morning, beautiful souls. Welcome in. Welcome in. Or maybe it's good afternoon or good evening. Wherever you guys are in this world, wherever you're joining me from, welcome. I hope that something speaks to you here today. And if you've been following along or know, we are going through a little bit of my yoga restart, rededication, recommitment to the practice. Good morning to your first day in Periscope. But like I always say, you don't have to be a yogi here. Joining along, you don't need to be anything. You just need to be someone that is making room for yourself, maybe wanting to find a little bit of good morning to your first day in Periscope, finding a little bit of stability, balance, peace, ease, grace, connection. If any of those words resonate with you, I welcome you to follow along. And if any of these lessons or practices don't resonate with you, then move on. It's okay. We all don't have to like the same things. The only thing that I ask is that we approach this practice, approach our time on the mat and off the mat with a little bit of kindness, a little bit of passion, a little bit of compassion, and how I think maybe we can find our way back to those things is through our yogic practice. But yoga is more than just the poses. It's more than just your time of getting up and sitting your butt on the mat or going through an asana. Yoga, I believe, truthfully, is a work in, not a work out. Good morning to First Day in Periscope. Periscope's doing really well. Everybody is, first day is a lot. I'm glad you've all found this app, and I'm glad it speaks to you and gives us a sense of community. And I will admit, I've strayed. Good morning again. I've strayed from my practice. I haven't been on regularly in a very long time. And this little slowdown, shutdown, has given me a chance to reconnect to something that I truly loved. I truly loved my yoga practice. And it made me stronger. It made me feel better. But those are just all outward things. The thing that I'm finding more now is the benefit that it gives me when I apply my practice off the mat. It gives me that sense of community, even though I can't practice in a yoga studio. This gives us connection. We are all isolated and cut off due to self-quarantine wherever you are in the world. The virus doesn't leave anybody untouched. You all know someone that's had it. You all know a caretaker. You are a caretaker. You all have had significant change in your life that we have been shifted and pushed off of our center, off of our balance, off of the world that we knew once was. We're all in this brand new normal, and we all have to figure it out. And that's where I think these yogic lessons come into play. If you're truly a yogi and you're seeking for a purpose, passion, connection, grace, ease, peace, or you're non-yogi and you want all of that, I believe studying and reading and going introspective and maybe shutting down the news we need to stay informed, yes, but maybe we can just take a half hour a day or an hour a day and just shut down, get off of social media except for the platform you're using that's serving you at the moment, and maybe if you're doing an audible book, listening to something that's uplifting, listening to nonfiction if you've always read fiction, maybe watching anything but the news, maybe going to a show like from your childhood past. And what always reminds me is I had a minister friend once who was in love with the Andy Griffith show. And he would watch the old reruns, but he would look for the moral lesson in the rerun. Like going back to something that once made us feel center, whole, and balance. And that's part of this yama. And a yama in yoga is basically like a moral code or a way of right living. And you can apply it first to yourself, because yoga is the work in. You do the work here and then external. So this yama is truthfulness. So let's take my friend's example of the fact when he gets a little off balance or off kilter, that he would go and if he couldn't sleep, he would wake up in the middle of the night, and we all have that channel that does those reruns of all the old TV shows, either from when you were a child or when you weren't even born, and he would stumble upon Andy Griffith, and he would watch, and sometimes he would recall, like being a very, very small child, that he remembered the scene, and like Barney did something silly, or Aunt Bee did something, like out of character, and they were all like, Aunt Bee, what's wrong with you? This isn't your normal character. And then the show was always like funny and kind of uplifting, sometimes sad, but it always had a little moral message. It always gave a message of hope at the end. And sometimes you're like, how are we getting here? Like, what on earth are they doing, with this episode? But he would just always like watch it, and then he would just sit and think about it and say, what was this uplifting message of hope that they gave me? And that's a TV show. I mean, an old TV show. So can you do the same thing when you go and you're listening to your podcast, or you're listening to a book, or you're reading a physical book in hand, and how does that book sit in your hand, and the feel of the paper and the words flashing across it? Like, are your eyes getting tired because you've been reading so much and you're almost like getting a headache because you're trying to find other things to do now in this new normal that uplift you and bring your peace, your truth to you and speak to you, and you can't go out and about as your normal life that would fulfill you. You can't go to the gym. You can't go to a yoga studio. You can't go to a club and dance. There's a lot of I can't do's out here. And if we get stuck in the illusion or the perception of the I can't statement, we're going to end up going down a slippery slope, and it's not going to be so hot for our own mental health, physical health, well-being. Instead of we start going to the I am statements, or I'm sorry, I can't hardly see, I just woke up. This is Truthfulness, so this is also my practice. I'll just go a little squirrel here. I will respond and look back at your comments, and I am not ignoring anybody. I just literally, my practice is, I get out of bed, I come to my mat, I share my practice with you, and then I start my day. So I don't have my glasses on or contacts in, so I can see like little blurry things that people are here, and thank you so much for joining me. And I will circle back, and I will answer your questions or respond after I get off, and I always do that. That is just me and who I am. But continue to comment, continue to share. You guys can chat amongst yourselves even while you're here. And that's also part of being truthful in Satya. It's part of this Yama, that how do you live your life? What is your moral code? What is your compass? Where are you being guided, and how are you living it out? So another previous scope, I gave the example of Jim Carrey, and the pen is blue or the pen is red. That is Satya at its funniest moment. That is still one of my favorite movie clips. He can't lie. The little boy wishes that he can never lie, and he literally can never lie. That is Satya. Tell the truth always. No little white lies, no fibs, no awkward pauses. You just speak your truth. Now, in that example, it's quite hysterical and funny. If you don't know the movie, I highly encourage you to watch it, and you can find the scene, or just YouTube the scene alone. And that's kind of harsh, because you go from a world of all lies to a world of never lying, and his visceral reaction to it is quite hysterical. But if we, in our own practice upon our mat or off the mat, apply it and say, okay, no little white lies, no awkward pauses, and just speak our truth from our heart, it's risky, it's challenging, because we are not in a isolated bubble. Yeah, we're cut off right now, we feel like it, but we're in a fishbowl. We have other people in our life, other people in our community, other people that we interact with daily, whether it's a family member, a coworker, a fellow yogi. If it's a runner, like when we go for these runs, I love to run, and I can't even run out in the community anymore because, we're social distancing and we're supposed to be staying home, and we're hoping to flatten the curve. And but like, even if you go for a run, you're having a really bad day and you're struggling, but yet you're running alongside your running buddy and they're having an awesome day. You don't want to rain on their parade. But yet, if you have a mutual respect for each other, you both in that moment can run your own race, and you both could come out at the end on the other side saying, we did the best with what we had at that moment. And we weren't hurting each other's race. We were just living the race that we were living at that moment in time. And that's kind of how truthfulness is on your mat. It is honoring your body and not being lazy. It is trying out poses that maybe you're afraid of. Maybe if you don't have any eye issues like glaucoma, maybe you want to try inversions and you're like afraid. You're like, I'm not a 5-year-old kid anymore. How am I going to stand on my head? Or how am I going to do a somersault? And I highly would not suggest doing any inversions. Maybe legs up the wall, but that's it. If you do have eye issues, because you don't want that inverted blood flow, that blood pooling to your head, to, like, further add pressure on your eyes. So, people with glaucoma, don't ever try an inversion. Even if you go to a yoga studio and the teacher's like, let's all practice inversions. Don't. You can just modify it. You can do your truth and change it. And instead of being completely on your head, maybe just be in Malasana, sit and hold it. And then maybe just maybe in cat-cow, and maybe just touch your nose to the mat, and maybe give you the feeling of the effort of going upside down, but don't put all that pressure on your head. But if it's medically safe to try something, try it. If you fall, you fall. If you stumble, you stumble. That's honoring your practice. That's living your truth. And the truth could be, I don't want to do it, and then you don't, and then you opt out of that pose and you just lay in child's pose for the class. Or you just stay in down dog when someone's doing a crazy arm balance and flying. That's your truth. That's in a community class. And if you're on your own in your own practice and you are trying something new and then you're like, no, I don't like this, but really you're just being lazy because you're tired or you don't feel well. Well, you can choose to keep being lazy and tired and not feeling well, or you can choose to try it and say, well, I promised myself I would try something, a new pose, every week. And this is my moment in time to try it. Well, you can honor your commitment to yourself and you can try it. That's truthfulness. That's Satya on your mat. And like I said, then on your mat, how does that apply to off the mat? So on the mat, I get up every morning. I come here. I do my practice. I do a little bit of theoretical first or philosophy. Sorry, I just heard something beeping. Strange. I do that self-study, and then I come back later in the day and I do a physical practice. Well, there's many mornings I get up, especially now because I literally think we're living in Groundhog Day, that I don't want to do this. I don't want to step on my mat. I want to just lay in bed, or I just want to sit there. Because there's that moment when you first wake up in the morning, and I don't know if it's happening for you guys or not. Good morning, everybody. When I finally go to sleep, and I finally do wake up, and it is dark, and it is still, and it is quiet in the house, and my eyes are barely fluttered awake, a moment I forget. I forget where I am. I forget what day it is. I don't know what time it is. It's dark. And in that moment, I had that most peace. Now, granted, sometimes I can wake up with a panic attack and go, oh, dear God, I remember everything, and it just floods right in. But there's other times when I wake up and there's such peace, and I'm like, I'm just here. I'm just laying in this bed, or if I fall asleep on the couch, I'm just laying on the couch. I generally will have a monster or two near me. This one. Or Betty, who you guys can't see but you've seen before. They'll be sound asleep. They'll be peaceful. They'll be blissful. And I won't want to break that ease, that peace, that grace, that silence. Yet I can't go back to sleep. And then the untruth comes in. I begin to fight with myself. I begin to say, oh, you're being lazy. Oh, you're old. Oh, you're sore because you've been running too much or doing too many poses and stepping upon a mat. It'll just hurt, and why torture yourself? Oh, I can come up with 1,000 excuses, which are all those white lies to myself that I tell myself, and that's all to keep me away from my practice. And that's not truth. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter what shape you are. It doesn't matter if you've ran a half marathon or a whole marathon the day before. You can just do a gentle practice and just stretch everything out. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to have the hottest, craziest practice that beats the crap out of you too, on top of beating the crap out of you for a run the day before. Yeah, you're sore. Yeah, you are tired. Yeah, you have anxiety. You can say that truth. That is the truth. But don't let that truth win, and don't let that truth block you from moving forward on your path, on your mat, which then you apply it off the mat. Because how many days before this new normal, when we all were out in the world and we all wanted to be our best selves and present our best selves forward, we would kind of do the same negative self-talk and try to talk ourselves out of doing stuff. Like, say you had the best job ever and you were lucky to go to it. How many mornings were you like, oh, I just want to stay in bed. I don't want to get up and go to work. Or if you're a kid, I don't want to go to school. Or a kid on Sunday morning, I don't want to go to church. Because you just wanted something else. You didn't want what was in that moment. And then we kept telling our lies to ourselves. You guys, stop. Sorry. Lies to ourselves, trying to get out of it. And then we kept telling this story on this hamster wheel. And these are all non-truths. This is not Satya. This is made up. This is the illusion. This is the veil. This is how we end up harming ourselves because we create suffering. When our mind chatter starts going and starts controlling ourselves, we go down that slippery slope. We have suffering, and we're doing the complete opposite of what our yoga practice strives for. Our yoga practice strives for us to be in truth, in alignment. It wants us to find that purpose, that passion, our higher calling. It wants us to live our life in joy. And it's hard because then if you're out in the world and you're practicing truthfulness, but my truth does not equal your truth, then how do we deal with that and navigate that? How do we all agree to disagree in the world collectively? How do we all hold that space, that breath, that silence for each other, but yet communicate and be bonded as humans on this earth? And that's where Satya gets really tricky. How do you honor your own truth? How do you make a boundary that establishes your truth, but yet is tolerant of someone else's truth? And I'm not saying we all have to agree. I'm not saying it has to be utopia. I'm just saying we need to give a little bit more space, kindness, ease, and grace to one another. So therefore, then, when we all are collectively living our truth, we don't collide so much. We don't have so many more fights, even within our own family unit, our own brain, our own self, our companies, our work, our jobs, our schools. Maybe we develop a more supportive community as a whole. And then maybe when we come out of this self-imposed timeout or isolationism, we find our way back to ourselves first. And through whatever work it is you're going to do. My work in is yoga, but your work in might be physical study of psychology. You might be a psychologist and sharing that gift out to the world. You might be a medical doctor and you can prescribe meds for someone. It doesn't matter how we get there and how you find it. Just honoring our path and our truth and our purpose, but yet being kind, compassionate, considerate of others' truths, and knowing that we all are applying a filter to any interaction that we do with any human on this earth, and knowing that filter is okay, that is their walk in life, and this is my walk in life, and we are staying in our own collective lanes right now, and eventually we're going to come and our lanes are going to crash. We're gonna run into each other. We're gonna interact with each other. And is it a beautiful race where your bodies are just flowing? Like if you look at the beginning of the New York City Marathon or the Boston Marathon, or if you look at the in France, the Tour de France, the way that those cyclists and runners can be right next to each other and on the biggest climb, the biggest descent, on the windiest of a hairpin turn, but they have faith and belief in their own ability. And say, example, the Tour de France. Like those hairpin turns in the Alps, oh my God, like you could fly off and die. But they collectively in that race, in that pack, have enough trust and faith in their own ability first, their truth, and they know that the cyclist next to them, if they're not a dirty racer, has their truth, and then they collectively fly through the Alps. And it's the most beautiful scene you could see on the face of the earth from an exercise standpoint or a movement standpoint. But we all need to have that. We need to be in our own lanes first. Make our ship whole, centered, balanced, peace. Fortify those things, not our negative self-talk, not our white lies. Those go out the door. Fortify your truth, fortify your lane, and then go out collectively. Be a mirror for someone so they can know their truth and speak their truth and use their voice. You can support them, or you can hold space for them, or you can let them go and just bless and block kind of thing. Like, you're cray-cray, you don't align with me, you're fine, you go over here, I go over here. The world needs many different types of personalities, many different types of artisans. Like, look at the olden days when people were farmers, they were blacksmiths, they were marketers, they had a market, they were fishermen, they were hunters, they were gatherers, there were so many things in this world that we actually have lost in a way because we all found the digital world. We found corporate type jobs. We found kind of like the easy way out. Not saying that work in corporate America is easy if you're an American citizen, but we've lost our trades. We've lost our craftsmen. We've lost a little piece of who we really are, that little light that is our truth in the world. And I'm seeing kind of this resurgence of people finding creative ways to communicate and to connect and to be an artisan and to share and to maybe make money or not. And that's part of your truth too. What is your gift? What is your talent? And how can you let it shine? So I invite you to really dive into Satya, which is truthfulness. And that's part of the reason why my page is called what it was when I was teaching out in the public. Because when I did my yoga teacher training, my 200 hours, I only did it for me in the beginning. And I just wanted to deepen my practice and find out who I was. And I'm not a teacher. I think teachers have amazing gifts, like school teachers for real. And you guys, and you all might be finding that out for yourselves now when you have children and you're becoming the homeschooler or the teacher, and it's something that's not a thing you've ever done before. And it's scary and it's new and it's exciting, but the person who has the gift to teach is an amazing person to me. And when I did my teacher training, I really wanted to just deepen my practice, learn about anatomy, kinesiology, the physical poses. I wanted to dive into the history and the philosophy of yoga, which I've done and did, and I really did enjoy. But through teaching, because it's 200 hours first, and then you can go on and do more teacher training. And if you guys are interested, I highly encourage you to find a studio that can do it live with you, and you can deepen your practice that way too. But somehow, some way, the experience of getting on my mat, you guys stop. The experience of getting on my mat, the experience of working through that fear of the unknown, of communicating with a human and leading a class, like, I don't know when it switched, but it switched. Bless you. I broke myself down enough that I got rid of the ego, I got rid of fear, I got rid of the white lies, and then I began to teach in the public. And it's rewarding. It's rewarding for the student, it's rewarding for the teacher. Stop, so sorry. You guys hang on 2 seconds, you'll wrap. And that was my truth. I found my truth through pushing out the fear. And then I began to teach. 1 minute. Sorry, he wants to go outside. And I encourage you to do that with anything in your life. Anything that's presenting a fear or a sense of unknown or rocking you off your balance or your center, find your truth with it. Find the peace with it. Break through. Go down. Dig deep. Dissect it and figure it out. And then maybe you will then find... He is, I know, I apologize. So that's what you can do. Just, dive down, dig deep, find your truth, and then go ahead and if you want to look at resources, look at the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali. He's really hard to read, but he is a good resource on the Niyamas and the Yamas. And if you want, you can dive deeper in other people's scopes or YouTube or whatever resources you have out there for learning about the Yamas and the Niyamas in your yoga practice. And then you can see how it speaks to you. See if it resonates with you or not. And then if anything speaks to you here, hold on 1 second, I will get rid of them. If anything speaks to you here and you want to keep coming back, please do so. Please, out. Everybody out. Come on. Come on. Sorry about that. Okay, so hello. So, dogs aside, if anything speaks to you about Satya and any of the Niyamas or the Yamas that we've gone through, like I said, do your own research, do your own self-study, and see if you want to cultivate a yoga practice. If you do, please keep coming back. Please keep sharing, and please follow along. If you would like to share out the scope, awesome. If not, just move on. And if you want to share in a community where we can talk beyond just little lines here, in my bio, if you click on the little head, I have my webpage there, and there's a link to our Facebook page. So if you guys want to join the Facebook group, it is Satya Beyond the Imperfection, and there's a little link to it right there. You can hit it in my website, and you guys are more than welcome to join in. You don't have to be a yogi. You don't even have to seek a yoga practice. You don't have to be anything. You can just be a human on this earth that's searching for a little bit of peace, connection, love, joy, balance. And I invite you in. You can explore. There's many resources in there. Right now we are feeling cut off and isolated, unless you have dogs. And yeah, they'll keep your life very full and very busy, or children. And through this time, we can use that place as a platform for loving kindness to one another. And as Tara Brock says, a place to come back home to. So there'll be resources there. Like you can see resources to cooking, to communication, to meditations. And these are all people that I personally know that are amazing contributors to this world. And I'm just sharing out their journey and their practice with you all, so maybe it'll speak to you or not. If it's obviously somebody super famous, obviously no, I don't personally know them. Like if I put up someone's TED Talk, I'll let you know it's so-and-so's TED Talk. But if I personally know them, I will give them a shout out and let you know that, this is someone who aided and assisted my journey in this fashion. And then snoop around their page and just see if it speaks to you, if it calls to you, and if you want to try adding it into your life and then your practice on this earth, either on the mat or off the mat. It's just a place of resources. It's a place to recenter, regroup, and reconnect. And with that invitation, I hope to see you on the other side. I hope you share. I hope you find something that brings you love, peace, and joy. And I shall go and let the dogs out before they destroy the entire house. And yes, it is a beautiful day. It is Saturday. I hope you all have nothing but the best. And may you find that center. May you find that peace, that ease, that grace. And as always,